So anyway, moving on to films. You're allowed a film on your desert island. Which one would you choose?
Whoa, that's a tough one. I'm sitting here now looking at my DVDs on my shelf and so many favourite films. I think I'm going to go Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, fantastic. One of my favourites.
Yeah, because it's one of those films that I've watched it countless times. I've got it on DVD, I've got it on Blu-ray, I've actually got the 4K version of it as well. And it's one of those films, it's on ITV2 all the time. And if I just turn the television on, it's on. I will sit and watch it no matter where it is in the story. Because every time I see it, I pick up some new little visual reference or new gag. And when I saw it in the cinema, I wasn't that familiar with zombie films. I've seen certain ones, but I wasn't aware of that subculture to an extent. And of course, after that, really the whole Walking Dead, zombie sort of explosion of films and TV stuff. But it just makes me smile every time I see it because I like all those little gags. I love this way the script at the beginning reflects what happens later on. Next time I see you, you're dead. And then the next time he sees that character, it's a zombie. And I love all those little jokes and things in it. So it's funny, and it still makes me laugh. And I still think the action is good, and it's this great cast. So I'm going to take that with me.
I've seen that film so many times. I mean, Carol and I saw it at the cinema when we was first dating.
Yeah.
And I think what comes across with that film is that they all obviously love those movies so much.
Yeah.
It is a tribute to them as much as it is a satire of them.
As I say, after I saw it, then I went back and sort of explored more of those sort of films because a lot of the references to the films themselves I wasn't particularly aware of. But when I went back to see them, I could see, of course, I could see Shaun of the Dead in that bit. I could see what that reference refers to. So when I first saw it, I just got it as a comedy, a zombie comedy. But then the more I looked at the history of zombie cinema, I could see all the other references. So it works on so many levels, as they say.
It does. There's definitely a lot of Romero in there.
Yeah.
And I really like Edgar Wright as a director as well. I think his directing has got a lot of energy to it.
Oh yeah, he's got that way of doing things. And did you see? You've also seen Baby Driver.
Yes.
Great film. I love that.
Tremendous.
The energy just races off the screen, doesn't it? Not just because it's about cars, but it's just full on, isn't it? It's just so clever the way he does his cuts and jumps and things. He just really drags you into it.
The way that some of those scenes were done, it's like a choreography.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a ballet.
It's amazing.
The only one of them I didn't really like is World's End. I've tried to get into that so much, and I think the first half, when it's a story about these guys getting older and not accepting getting older, I think there's a good story there. But I think when you had the aliens and things, it just seemed like lazy. We better make it a bit geeky. And I felt it lost its way a bit then. And I've watched it about 4 times, but I can never remember much from the second half of it because it just becomes generic at the end, which is a shame. But I love Hot Fuzz and I love Shaun of the Dead particularly.
I spoke to Edgar Wright a few times on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I spoke to him, he'd listed, I think it was his top 1,000 films of all time.
Yes.
And one of them was Threads, which I'm a little bit obsessed.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of started talking to him about that, and he said, yeah, that kind of was an influence on the first half of Shaun of the Dead.
All right, yeah.
And you can kind of see that in a way, like the news reports in the background.
Yeah, that's true.
Things like that.
Yeah, and the sort of the domestic life of these people just living their lives, doing normal things. Yeah.
And then if you listen on the commentary of Shaun of the Dead, at the end where the army turn up.
Yes,
outside the pub.
Yeah.
He says, "This is my unit scene."
Yeah. yeah. The brigadier and his 6 men turning up to save the day. Yeah.
And I love that. I love those little references to other things, that have influenced him.
But that's what I mean. That film and Hot Fuzz to an extent, and that's obviously more based on the buddy movie thing. But there's so many little nods and references, and I think it's really good when the new generation of creative people are able to reference the past, but do it in a creative way, rather than just remaking an old film. They're sort of showing their love of old films by just doing little twists on them. I just really admire that.
I think it's calmed down a bit now, but I think there was a time, maybe like a year or so ago, where Shaun of the Dead was on ITV2 every single night.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And most nights, if I would put it on, I think, oh, I'll watch the last 20 minutes of it or the last hour of it. So I've watched it in full dozens of times, and bits of it hundreds of times probably. And I'm talking about it now makes me want to go and watch it again, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great film.